Hello, my name's Ben Wilson. I'm the ACCA's expert tutor for the AAA exam. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you lots of guidance and tips on how you can score more professional skills marks in the exam. Now, it's really important to bag these marks. Did you know that the most common marks for failing AAA are 47, 48 and 49, which is heartbreaking. If you've taken AAA before, you may well know how awful it is when you get so close to passing. But if you can pick up a few more professional skills marks, 3 or 4 marks across the exam, because you've got good professional skills mark techniques, then you get over the line. And you don't have the heartbreak of scoring 47, 48, 49. You have the joy of scoring 50 or 51 or 52. I hope you find this technique and topic explainer video useful. Here's our agenda for the session. So we're going to start with a little bit of a recap about professional skills marks, and I'm going to be recommending that you go off and do a bit of research so that you can get more out of this video. And then I'm going to go through my top tips on how to pick up professional skills marks. So starting with that recap. Well, there are 20 professional skills marks in the exam. It's a fifth of the marks, 20 out of 100. This is a hugely important part of the exam that lots of students neglect. Now, the professional skills marks are awarded for communication. There are 4 of those marks in question 1 of the exam, and only in question 1. Analysis and evaluation. We tend to see that there are 2 or 3 marks available for this in questions 1, 2 and 3. Every question always has analysis and evaluation marks. Skepticism and judgment, again, present in every single question 1, 2 and 3. And there tends to be 2 or 3 marks available for these. And then commercial acumen. Well, this isn't actually in every single question. We don't always have it in 2 and 3, but it's usually there. And usually there's 1 or 2 marks available in each of the questions for commercial acumen. So the most important ones are analysis and evaluation and skepticism and judgment, because across the whole exam, there are more marks available for those than the other skills. Now, I'm being a little bit vague here, 2 or 3 marks, 1 or 2 marks, because the professional skills marks are flexible. They're not always awarded for the same things, and they're not always available, particularly commercial acumen, in every question. The professional skills marks, they flex depending on the requirements. And I'm going to recommend that you do a little bit of research now before you watch the rest of this video. And here's the research I want you to do. I want you to go to the ACCA's website and click through to the study resources on AAA, and you find a whole section on professional skills for AAA. And particularly, it's these videos I want you to watch. The professional skills overview from the examining team. And what these videos do is give you a general idea of what the examining team are trying to do with each of these areas of professional skills. What these videos are great for is setting your background understanding of the professional skills. But what they don't do is give you specific tips on how to earn the professional skills. And that's where the rest of this video is going to come in. But you will only get the best out of my tips if you've got a good understanding of each of the professional skills. So make sure you watch each of these videos before you watch the rest of this video. So hopefully you've now watched those guidance videos from the examining team. And a theme that comes across in those videos for me is that the examining team very much say that a good answer will score professional skills marks without even really trying. A strong technical answer will just earn these marks anyway. And if you're someone who's going to score 70% in AAA, you'll probably get these marks anyway. But if you're someone who is more marginal, these marks, well, professional skills marks are low-hanging fruit, right? They are relatively easy to earn. compared to some of the more tough technical marks. But they're only easy to earn if you are doing the right things. And so that's where all of these tips are going to come in. And the way we're going to do this, I'm going to give a few tips and then I'm going to show you these tips in action. So my first tip is around percentages. Most questions in AAA, they will give you financial numbers. They'll give you maybe in question 1, they'll give you a little table telling you a financial extract of the performance of the business. Or they might give you numbers that are included in the narrative information. You always get them in question 1, the planning question, and you tend to get them in question 2 and question 3 as well. And my advice to you is you've got to use those numbers. And I've specifically made this tip percentages because that is how I'd want you to use the numbers. Calculating the percentage change in a number, simple percentage changes, not anything complicated and technical like ratios, just calculating some simple percentage changes is a really easy, quick win. But you will only score professional skills marks and technical marks for your numbers, your percentage changes, if they make it into your analysis and you use them to add depth to your analysis. Just calculating the numbers in a little table won't get you anything. What you have to do is use those numbers to add depth. My second tip for you, and actually I probably should have said the first one is really around analysis and evaluation. Using facts throughout your answer is another way of earning an analysis and evaluation professional skills mark. So the way that I do this is I make sure that every point in my answer, every point, it starts with a fact from the scenario. That's the starting point for my analysis. Now, I don't earn any marks just for copying and pasting a fact or rewriting a fact. It's the analysis that scores technical marks, but basing your analysis on facts from the scenario helps to earn you an analysis and evaluation professional skills mark. This is also a very effective way of making sure that your answer is bespoke and tailored to the particular scenario because you're basing it on things about that actual company. It's really important in AAA that you don't write points that you've pre-memorized or learned from the textbook because they don't score you credit. And then my third tip is around linkages or links. Now, this is very much related to that analysis and evaluation mark for using facts, but you get credit for developing those facts and for working out how they link together. This exam is a game, right? It's a game that is supposed to mimic real-world auditing, but it very much is a game. And one of the ways that the examiner sets up the game is that they give you different facts, probably in different parts of the exhibit or even in different exhibits for the same question. And though your job is to work out how those facts link together. You have to explain in your answer how the different facts that you are given in the scenario fit together to tell a more complete and deeper story. It allows us to take our analysis to the next level, which helps to earn you more technical marks and also a professional skills mark for really developing your points. And that actually is a common theme with these professional skills marks. If you write really good analysis, you earn technical marks for it and professional skills mark too. Double credit. Right, those are the first 3 tips. We're now going to put those tips into practice using an example. So these tips are around using percentages, facts, and building linkages. And what you can see on screen here is a weak answer in terms of professional skills marks. Right, okay, this is probably a decent point. It's correct. Correctly stating the required accounting treatment for revenue. There could be a little bit of credit for that. Revenue could be recognised too early. And this is nicely put actually at the end in that it's very specific about the accounts that are misstated, revenue and deferred income. And it's precise about whether it's over and understatement. This is an audit risk answer. but it is very light and very weak in terms of professional skills marks. So what I'm going to show you is how to take this basic answer and improve it. Right, if you'd like to pause the recording here so that you can read through this fully, please do so. But this is the same answer, but it's just where I'm trying to think of these 3 tips on professional skills marks and using them to create a better answer that will score more technical marks and more professional skills marks too. So let's go through how this one's different. It starts by quoting a specific fact from the scenario. Revenues increased by 30 million. And I've done a bit of analysis as well on that. Because I had the fact, it encouraged me to say whether it was material or not. And it clearly was material. And look how this second point is different. I have quoted the accounting standard, but I've used facts from the scenario because it's about delivery of goods rather than when orders are received. I've used facts from the scenario to make it a more tailored answer rather than being generic. Oh, and look down here in this next one. I've included a couple of lovely percentages. Now, because this issue was around revenue and deferred income, what I decided to do is go into the scenario and see if I could find any numbers about revenue and deferred income. And you'll always be given them, right? They'll always be there somewhere. So what I was able to calculate is that revenue went up 15%, but deferred income only increased a little bit. And then I've linked this in with a wider fact from the scenario. In this business, they get orders 6 months ahead of delivery. And so when the business grows, you would expect deferred income to go up as well as revenue increasing. You would expect these 2 numbers to move in line with each other. So by including percentages and linking in a wider fact, I've been able to make this a deeper and higher mark scoring answer, both in terms of technicality, technical marks, and professional skills marks for using these numbers, my simple calculations. Oh, and look, I brought in a wider fact here. You often get told things like the company has a bonus target for staff, or the company is planning to list. Now, these things you're often told in a different exhibit. It might be in the opening screen for the question. And what I've done is linked in that wider fact. I've linked it in to say there's an incentive. There's a reason why management might be recognising revenue too early, helping to create a deeper answer. So you can see by using these tips of including percentages, lots of facts, and trying to find linkages between the different pieces of information, my answer has way more depth. It's going to score more technical marks and more professional skills marks too. A double win. On to my next set of tips before we do another demonstration. So tip 4 is you've got to question things. You can't just believe everything that you are told in the scenario. You have to question things with authority. So you can't just say, I don't believe this number, or I don't believe this fact. Right? That's not enough. You have to have a reason why you don't believe this fact that you are told. There could be some reason that management are biased and they're trying to overstate things. Perhaps there's a bank loan and they're trying to get a bank loan and therefore they've overstated the numbers in the forecast because they're trying to encourage the bank to approve the loan. You can't just say, I don't believe the number. You have to have a reason why. And you have to, in your analysis, you have to explain why this fact or this number doesn't make sense. Questioning things with authority helps you to earn a professional skills mark for skepticism. Tip 5 is to have a balanced answer. And this is particularly important if the requirement is for you to discuss or to evaluate something, particularly in a discuss question. But this is also important in an evaluation. That you argue both sides of the situation. That's what makes it a discussion. Otherwise, it's an argument, isn't it? Yeah, if you're just putting one viewpoint. It always helps you to create an answer that has a wider range of points and will have a more depth to it if you are able to take different viewpoints. It could be wrong for this reason, it could be right for this reason. And by having this kind of balanced answer, you're showing your judgment in that you can argue both sides. And it helps you to earn that judgment professional skills mark. Tip 6 is very closely related to this. Tip 6 is about including a conclusion. And again, this is relevant when the verb is to discuss or evaluate. When you're kind of arguing, you've argued both sides, but you need to come to a clear conclusion at the end. And your conclusion, well, I would always subtitle it conclusion, so it's really obvious it's a conclusion. Or if you don't have a subtitle with conclusion, then start your point with the word concluding or conclude or something like that, so it's very obvious to the marker that this is a conclusion. And to make it a clear conclusion, you should be saying yes or no if the question is discuss whether we should accept this engagement. Or if it's discuss the significance of something, you say it's very significant or it is not significant. Right? That is a clear conclusion, but that is only the start of your conclusion. For you to score fully, your conclusion has to be justified. So you need to use points from your analysis to say why you have given that conclusion. So we should accept the engagement because it's commercially attractive, the fee, and the safeguards such as, or the ethical threats that are present, like a self-review threat, can be effectively mitigated by having separate engagement teams. The second part of your conclusion is to explain why you have given that conclusion using facts from your analysis. It should be tailored, right? It shouldn't be just a generic conclusion justification. So here's a little demonstration showing you these 3 tips in action where we're questioning things with authority. We're trying to have a balanced answer where we argue both sides and we have a clear and justified conclusion. The question here might have been something like discuss or evaluate the impact on the audit opinion. And this answer is very light, isn't it? They've done a good thing by setting out that it's material by size and by comparing it to the materiality level. They've assessed whether it's pervasive, but they haven't discussed it. They've just stated that it's not pervasive because it's isolated. And then they've given what is the correct audit opinion. But it is all a bit light. And if this person writing this answer had been trying to bring these tips in to question things, to have a balanced answer, and to conclude clearly, they would have written this answer very differently. So let's see a much better answer. Now, if you'd like to read through this in detail, I suggest that you pause the recording here so that you can read it yourself and digest it. But we're now going to go through it together and discuss how it's different. First paragraph is the same, right? We're saying it's material. But then look what happens in paragraph 2 and 3. We are discussing whether it could be pervasive or not. We are arguing both sides. It could be pervasive because because correcting this would mean we miss some sort of profit target. And so the impact on a user of the accounts is more significant. Look, I'm considering wider stakeholders and a wider fact as well. So there's some overlap with my earlier tips. And look, I've questioned things. I've questioned with authority. Why hasn't this misstatement been corrected? Well, management have an incentive not to correct it because it means they wouldn't get their bonus. So I've questioned with authority why they haven't corrected this misstatement. So this paragraph is arguing that it is pervasive. But then this paragraph is arguing why it's not pervasive. Because it's isolated. It doesn't impact the wider financial statements. It doesn't turn profit to a loss. And having argued both sides, I can then have a conclusion. How do you know it's a conclusion? Well, I'm starting it with concluding. Conclude. I'm concluding it's material only because the main user of the accounts isn't going to be impacted by this. So I've had my conclusion and I've justified it. And the reason this is a good justification is because I'm considering the main stakeholder group. Now, look, I gave a little bit more detail here around the audit opinion because I'm explaining it a little bit more by saying it's because of the material misstatement. And that's because I'm thinking often the conclusion mark could be for concluding about pervasiveness, but it could be for concluding about the required audit opinion. And that is just a statement on its own without any justification. And I've given a bit more justification here, which will help me to earn more technical credit and also potentially more professional skills marks too. I love these double wins. Tip 7 is about making your answer wider. Look at the wheels on that bike. That is not a usual, typical wheel that you see on a bicycle. It is extremely wide, and I want your answer to be like the wheels on this bike. They're fat, they're wide. How do you make your answer wider? How do you come up with a wider range of points? Well, my main tip for you is to try to consider other or wider stakeholders. And I just have a list in my mind that I run through when I'm trying to come up with analysis and development points. I think about employees. I think about customers. I think about shareholders. I think about suppliers. I think about the management team. I think about, it might be relevant to a question. There could be a pressure group of some sort, or the government, or the bank. I'm trying to think about, in relation to this scenario, how does my point, how would it impact a wider stakeholder? And by considering a wider stakeholder, it allows me to add a wider depth to my answer. And that will help me to earn more analysis and evaluation marks, and potentially judgment marks too, for showing that I've used my judgment to consider wider stakeholders. Another way of making your answer wider, and this is particularly in business risks, by the way, in question 1, you're quite often asked to evaluate the business risks. And for you to make your answer a bit wider there and to add more depth in, you are considering the impact on the future. Are they going to be able to, if this business issue, this business risk, it might mean that they lack cash going forward. And they might need that cash to pursue some future growth strategy. Or it might mean that this business risk, it could mean that they are going to be less profitable next year and they might not meet their profit target or the expectations of the market. Tip 8 for you is to try to remember that audit is a business. Okay, try to make commercial points. I know that auditors are fulfilling an important regulatory function for the market, adding credibility to the financial statements with their opinion. But you have to remember in your answer that audit is a commercial business, and many students' answers don't do this. You've got to think about financial or reputation impacts for the auditor. So I try and think about, to remember that audit is a business, I try to think about things like, what's the impact on the fees or the margins we're going to make on the audit? If we're going to use an auditor's expert, it's going to cost us money, and that's going to harm audit profitability. I also try to think about, are there any third parties that are going to be relying on this report or this piece of work that I'm doing? And if there are known third parties, I might owe them a duty of care. And if I'm negligent in my work in some way, they might sue me. That increases the risk of the engagement. And I can link it back to saying if it's a higher risk engagement, I should probably be charging a higher fee to reflect the higher risk. These are the two main ways that I try to make my answer more commercial. So let's see these tips in action, trying to consider wider stakeholders and trying to make commercial points. Now, this answer, the question here, I think it's something like, should we take on this piece of work? It's an acceptance question. And the student has used a good fact from the scenario. There's a 2-week deadline. It's tight. That will create time pressure. But it's not really been developed. And it's saying we might need an auditor's expert. That's a decent point. But it hasn't been fully developed again. And it's saying that we know that a third party is going to be relying on this forecast or report or whatever it is, and that increases the risk of the engagement. This answer, in each of the 3 points, they've got off to a good start, but they haven't sealed the deal. And if they'd been thinking of these tips about, can I consider a wider stakeholder, or can I consider the commerciality from the auditor's perspective, then they would have created a better answer. In fact, they might have created an answer that looks just like this. So again, pause the recording here if you would like to read it in detail, but we're going to go through it together. So how do we add more depth onto this time pressure point? Well, I've considered wider stakeholders. That time pressure, I'm thinking about staff. That's my wider stakeholder here. I'd need more people. They might already be booked onto other jobs. I might not have the staff available to do the work. This second one about the auditor's expert. Well, I've developed that by saying an expert might be expensive. Okay, but that cost should be built into the fee so that audit profitability or margins are maintained. And here, anytime there's a known third party relying on something, I always use this point. It's a really good one, right? They could sue me for negligence. I could have made this even better by talking about I might owe them a duty of care because I know they're relying on the report, but they could sue me for negligence. That's the commercial implication. And so by considering wider stakeholders and commerciality as I was writing my answer or planning my answer and then writing it up, well, it helped me to write a deeper answer. These points are going to help me to earn both technical marks and professional skills marks. Gosh, I'm being repetitive, aren't I? But that's kind of how professional skills marks work. If you're doing the right things in terms of your technical answer, you earn both technical marks and professional skills marks. I'm going to say it again. Repetition is hopefully going to reinforce it. There are double wins all over the place. If you try and earn the professional skills marks, you will create a better answer that scores you more technical marks too. Double wins. Tip 9 is don't miss out on the 4 easiest marks in the exam. You know who this guy is on screen, don't you? Yeah, Barack Obama. And, well, he was president of the US, but apart from being known for being president, Barack Obama was known for being a superb orator, a great speaker, a fantastic communicator. And you need to be Barack Obama when you are answering question 1, because there are 4 easy marks for communication. The first of those marks is for having the right format. And that's having to, from, dates and all that sort of stuff at the top, a briefing notes heading, and having an introduction. Those marks are pretty easy to earn, right? Really easy, but you just need to remember to do it. You need to have enough time in question 1 for you to earn that format mark. The next mark is for style and professionality. Now, here you need to use a professional tone throughout your answer. So, no slang, fully explained sentences. You need to have subheadings in your answer. And you also need to have your materiality paragraph as the first paragraph within either your audit risk or ROM section. The next one is for adherence. And what that means is doing as you are told by the audit partner. Because the audit partner is always the one that's asking you to do the briefing notes in question 1. And they will tell you to do some things and do not do some others. So they'll tell you how to calculate materiality, use revenue or total assets or PBT. Follow that instruction. They might tell you with your audit risks that you need to include analytical procedures. So you have to include some simple percentage numbers. They might tell you that your audit procedures have to be focused on valuation. Valuation of the inventory or valuation of the intangible asset. And so your audit procedures have to focus on getting evidence around valuation, following the instructions, doing as you are told. But they might also say to you, don't do something. Don't consider risks around foreign exchange. And you have to follow that instruction as well, otherwise you don't earn this adherence mark. And the fourth one is for an effective answer. And that means using facts all the way through your answer, making it tailored, not generic. That means making sure that you have a decent go at all parts of the question, not leaving anything out. So by doing that, you earn the fourth of these marks. Now, according to the examining team, most students earn 3 of these, and a lot of students earn 4 of them. But some students don't earn any, right? And if you don't earn these marks, then you're making it that much harder for you to pass overall. Remember, I said that the most common failing marks are 47, 48, 49. And if you get 47 and you didn't earn these 4 marks, you would be absolutely kicking yourself, wouldn't you? Now, if you want to see how to earn these marks, I suggest that you watch on the ACCA's YouTube channel. There are videos taking you through a mock exam for each exam sitting that shows you how to earn these marks. And it's very often me that's doing those recordings, so you'll get to see me doing it. You can also look more widely on YouTube. You'll find my YouTube channel where I've got demonstration videos of me showing you how to earn these marks. Well, that's it for this topic explainer video on professional skills marks. I hope you found my tips useful and you're really going to take them on board. Try and use them when you're practicing in mock exams and in the real exam so that you earn more professional skills marks and you get yourself from that 47, 48, 49 up to the magic 50, 51, 52. Now, there are loads more topic explainer videos and other useful content on the ACCA's website and also on the ACCA's YouTube channel. If you've not been on the YouTube channel yet, really suggest you go on there. There's loads of great stuff.